All right, recapping the game. Anytime that you win a game 73-7, a lot of things have to go right. Like I said afterwards, I feel like our guys played with really good energy and execution. So that was great to see because first game of the season, like I've said, it's almost like an expansion team. So many new players. That was impressive by the players to do that because there's a lot of things that go into football about execution and substitutions, communication when you got new coaches and new players. I was very pleased with that. So it'll be a big challenge this week. Going to play a top 25 team, Cotton Bowl champs. I said, they ask about 9-game SEC schedule, so this is a test really of 9-game SEC schedule because this is a SEC football team with that type of talent. Saw what they were able to beat the Heisman Trophy winner a few games ago. So, and going on the road, it's always challenging, especially with a new team. So we'll have our hands full and have to perform really well and practice really well this week.
Kind of like you fielded a question about Michael Trigg over the weekend. We noticed, at least I did, Braylon Brown wasn't suited up either for the first half, but ended up making pretty good play in the second half. What can you tell us about that?
I think you missed that on the dressing out. That was not the case. So he did a good job, played some on special teams, and made a good catch on a seam route. So he did a really good job.
Lane, staying on the topic of Tulane, you faced this same quarterback 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, and although your team had a lot of success against him 2 years ago, just how do you feel like he's different as a quarterback back then versus the quarterback that you've seen on film currently?
Well, every year is different for every team, and 2 years ago certainly means nothing. They were 2-10 that season. I thought they were going to have a really good season. They took Oklahoma, if you remember, right before us down to the last series and had the ball going down to beat Oklahoma. So. But much different team now that's had a lot of success after last year's 12 wins and playing at a really high level. And the quarterback basically played as well as you can on air last week with one incompletion. So he's very savvy, veteran, sharp, accurate, really good player.
Just looking at the depth chart here, last week Jackson and Spencer were listed as co-starters. There's no or there this time. Can you take us through that decision?
Yeah, Jackson played really well, and like I've said, had a really good camp in spring, and so he's the starting quarterback, and said all along, we're extremely excited about that room, that depth in the room. Walker came in, played really well, made some really good throws in the game too, so I always say each position group is its team within itself, and our goal is each year to improve that in the offseason, and that position has been dramatically improved, like you saw the play from all three guys that went in.
Kind of alluded to it in your opening statement, but when the game like Saturday gets as one-sided as quickly as it does, when y'all go back and look at the film, how do y'all kind of approach that film? What boxes do you kind of start looking to check at that point?
Well, it doesn't matter what the score is. It doesn't matter what's going on. It doesn't matter if there's anyone in the stands. You can't let that dictate how you play. And for the most part, our guys did a really good job. Always concerned about those type of games when it's going that way of coming out flat in the third quarter, which we have done here before in some blowout games. So I was very pleased for a new team to do that.
You talked about him Saturday, but getting to look at him on film, just what did Suntrine kind of stand out in his first game, first atmosphere like that?
Yeah, he was one of the defensive players of the game. Really was dynamic. Actually played really hard on special teams, had a good block on the punt return for a touchdown. So it was as advertised. And you don't always know that. Just because guys are ranked high in recruiting doesn't mean they're going to perform really well, especially in their first game. And he did a great job.
I think you kind of subtly mentioned it kind of in the middle of fall camp. You're talking about competition at kicker. You saw Caden Davis and Caden Costa do some things Saturday. Of course, Caden Davis taking care of most of the duties with PATs, field goals, and then kickoffs as well. Do you see that as kind of a primary role for Caden Davis, all that, or do you feel like it's going to be kind of a week by week thing when it comes to special teams?
Yeah, I think those guys have done a great job. They both kicked off well and both have proven to make field goals. And so, again, kind of like what we talked about, position groups, usually you don't say that with kickers, to make that room better in the offseason has been great. And it's exciting to have both those guys. Very rare.
What was Jackson's reaction when you named him the starter either Friday or Saturday, either Friday night or Saturday morning?
I don't know. I think you would have to ask him. I don't think it was a big reaction. I think that he just, he's been here long enough to know that we teach him control what you can control and be ready to play, and it's out of your control how many snaps you get to play. That's our decision, and we don't always expect you to agree with it, tell the players, but we expect you to respect it and go play really hard regardless of what your role is.
Coach, did anybody kind of jump off the tape that you weren't really expecting of your first 50 guys?
Well, I thought you saw Caden Lee come in and do well. I thought Vic played really well to play left tackle and right tackle in the game. He did a really good job, and somebody that had actually played guard a lot in camp. So that was really good to see. And I mentioned Walker coming in, for really didn't get any game plan reps. To come in and do that well was awesome.
Special teams unit made a handful of plays on Saturday. Just your initial thoughts on them on the weekend?
Yeah, I thought they did a really good job. I think you said first time in 10 years a punt return for a touchdown, and then to get the turnover on a kickoff. And sometimes you kind of luck into turnovers. They drop it or muff it, to force it the way that Jam did. And, that's a really good example of what we're wanting guys to do. Guys come here a lot of times with expectations. Everybody wants to play. Well, everybody doesn't get to, and it doesn't work out that way, unfortunately. And so, you got to seize your opportunities when they're on special teams, just like if you were in the NFL, you would. And so I thought he was a great example of that, because I'm sure he'd like to carry the ball more, but that just wasn't the case.
Lane, on film, what level of cohesion did you see from that defense with all of its new pieces?
Not very much on the first play. So I did think for a lot of moving parts, guys coming in and really a completely new defensive structure, to play 3-4, with basically two outside backers and Cedric being one of those, was totally different than what we had played before. So I thought guys did a really good job.
Coach, what do you think the impact of Kyron Heath was in week one, and what do you think his role is moving forward?
And Kyron really did a great job, stepped up, made plays. For somebody who had not played a lot in significant roles before, to go out there and start, he did a really good job. It's great to see.
What does a challenge with Tulane in week 2 do for kind of helping you evaluate where your team is at?
I'm not worried about evaluating. I'm worried about trying to go beat a top 25 team. So, this is not an evaluation game. Going into, on the road for the first time with our team and into one of the hottest teams in the country and probably the hottest quarterback in the country off of almost being perfect last week. So, I would actually like another evaluation game, but that's not what this is, certainly.
And then how long has Juice been working on retrieving that kicking tee?
Yeah, I can't take any credit for it. I didn't even know, this sounds crazy, I didn't even know it was happening. So I actually was coming out and getting ready for the first kickoff and coming down, and I actually saw it. They didn't even tell me. So Wild Rose and Tom that trains them, I'd seen him go out there and do it with like ducks. I didn't know he was doing it with a kicking tee. So actually happened to be going right by when it happened. So that was pretty neat. But surprisingly, I did not have anything to do with that, and I didn't know it was even happening.
Sure, you probably haven't spent too much time pondering on it, but you alluded in the beginning about Tulane being an SEC level team, and you look at where they were a decade ago versus now, coming off of a Cotton Bowl, having a quarterback of that caliber and all that. What do you feel like you could best attribute to kind of the turnaround of Tulane football the past couple of years?
I don't know where they were a decade ago, but 2 years ago they were 2-10. So amazing job by Willie turning them around like that. And I mean, that's I'm sure got to be one of the biggest turnarounds in the history of college football in 1 year. So obviously really good coaching, and it's got good players. And usually if you're going to have that turnaround, it usually means you have a good quarterback too, which they do.
Lane, Xavion Harris flashed a lot Saturday. Was he as consistent as he was flashing?
Yeah, that was exciting to see. To have young high school Mississippi players making plays. He was a player of the game too. So, along with Get, who he mentioned, and then Cedric. So that was really awesome to see him make those type of plays and be that type of force. All right, guys. Have a good week.